Thanks again, Ed.
Welcome.
We are talking briefly about, if you saw my last video, you'll notice the kind of performance this thing really puts down. And you know, let's today talk a little bit more of the things that are awesome about a Porsche 930, and maybe not even so much this one in particular. We'll talk more in generalities. So what is great about a Porsche 930, and more specifically better than if you're comparing it to a late model 911 Turbo? Well, let's get on that list. So firstly, these old Porsches, they're awesome in terms of the handling. They really feel like a go-kart. None of the new stuff today, aside from maybe getting into a GT3, really does have that kind of sensation. The GT3 is about the only thing, and you know, aside from that, to get into a modern day turbo, the car does feel a little softer. It's a little more like a BMW, which is a great car, but it lacks that knife edge. Well, this car does not lack that edge. This car has all of that. So that's the first thing that I love about these old school Porsche 930s. Another thing is the looks. Look at these things. It's a look that's classic, and I don't mean it in a vintage kind of way, even though it's kind of vintage. It's the 80s look, but that 80s look, it's a positive note. It's nothing to be said but positive comments. Even today, we're driving around in an 80s 911 Turbo, and you get people looking and gawking and thumbs up and cheering and waving. You know, it's just a classic look. It's an expression of the 80s at its finest, with the wide fenders and the whale tail and the loud, obnoxious engine. It's just an awesome machine. So again, that's another thing that I love about this Porsche 930. And to be quite frank, since I sold mine, I really do miss that whole feeling of, you know, that driving sensation, the look, you know, looking back at it, I really do miss this thing. So what's another thing about these? Well, the other great thing about these old school 930s is the simple fact that it's more of a mechanical car. And that's not necessarily bad. That's actually a good thing. And the reason I say that, this kind of goes back to the guys, the tuners, the guys that like customizing their cars, even the guys that just like wrenching on their cars. It's a much easier car to modify, and it's a car that really, you know, anybody just about can work on it. You can do your own oil changes, tune-ups, things like that, even if you're somewhat mechanically inclined. So just the simplicity of the car, you know, rings loud to me in terms of, you know, the appeal for these cars. The fourth thing that I love about these Porsche 930s, well, again, if you watched my last video, it's the sound. The sound of these 930s really sound about as good as anything, maybe aside from an F1 car, and even that's questionable. I mean, these really do have a spectacular sound all their own. And there's nothing like it. You can hear a 930 coming around the corner, or even an air-cooled Porsche for that matter. You can hear it coming around the corner. You know what it is. It's like a Chevy guy knows his Chevy sounds. Well, guess what? A Porsche guy knows his Porsche sounds. But the distinct difference is these cars produce a sound that is pretty much one of the most spectacular sounds in car history. So, lastly, the fifth main reason why I love the old school Porsche 930 really boils down to, again, we talked about the simplicity of it all, the simplicity in the mechanics, the simplicity in the style and the driving experience, and the driving experience that comes with, of course, you know, just the lack of driving aids. That is really the last reason. The fifth reason, primary reason really, and I'd say the best to last, is the simple fact that this car does not have driving aids. It doesn't have traction control. It doesn't have, you know, your Bluetooth plug-in or navigation. You don't worry about that stuff. And that, combined with the simple layout in the interior, without all these buttons and gadgets to play with, the interior is very Spartan, but in a cool, clean, and race car kind of way. And again, if you look at the simple gauge layout, for me, that does it for me. Honestly, the interior styling, although it's not the simple latest and the greatest that, you know, a lot of folks like, all that, you know, kind of angular plastics and design, this really is more of a race car look to it. So I love the interior, the fit and finish, because it's lacking all those electronics and gadgets, because the gauges are clean, because the interior is typically wrapped in leather. The interior is just awesome and abound in quality. And when you step inside one of these, you can smell that rich baseball glove smell, Ed, eh?
You betcha.
Always has that smell.
Always will.
Not like cheap melting plastic you find in a lot of the cars today, right?
That's right.
So that rounds up the top 5 things I love about old school Porsche 930. And this one in specific is even better. It takes all those elements and just makes it even better. But a Porsche 930 is just envelops everything that is performance, quality, and well-built construction that the Germans knew how to do in the 80s and still continue. But anyway, everybody, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please do make sure you subscribe below, share this video with your friends, and again, comment down below. Let me know what you think of this car or any other Porsche 930. What are your thoughts? All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.